Hello, I'm meteorologist Don Luers, and thank you for joining us for this edition of Weather Awareness. Well, we're sitting here more than halfway through 2020, and what a year it's been so far. It's going to be remembered for lots of things, probably first of all the coronavirus and all that's going on with that, but also in terms of weather. It's been a very memorable year. Right now, Jim Allen, a local beekeeper, is joining us. He is the owner and operator of Uncle Jim's Southern Honey. And Jim, thanks for coming by.
Good to be here again, Don.
I know you always have things going on every time of year. You've been a guest in the fall, you've been a guest in the winter, you've been a guest in the spring, but I'm not sure I've ever had you on right smack in the middle of summer. What's going on this time of year with the bees and your career?
Well, right now we're making increase. Well, we've harvested the spring crop. It was a good crop. The bees are making honey again, and at the same time, as I said, we're making increase. So we're making up new hives. We've done some grafting. We've been grafting queen cells off and on this year, and we've got some grafts in now that'll be coming off next week. And we'll take those queen cells and we'll go 2 or 3 days before they come off and are ready to hatch. We'll make lots of nucleus hives, and then we'll go back around on the pool day, which will be Friday next week, and pull those queen cells, take them out, and go to the different bee yards. And everywhere we set up new hives, we'll put a queen cell in each one. They'll hatch in a day or two. She'll take her mating flight within 7 to 10 days, and come back in, and in a few days start laying eggs.
So when you see her making an increase, you're talking about literally starting new hives.
That's right.
Okay, that's pretty cool. I never knew that. That's how that would work. So when you're starting new hives, are you on new properties or additional hives where you already have hives, or some of both, or
some of both?
Okay.
So we're constantly looking for new bee yards. We set each bee yard up about 2 miles apart, and we give our landowners some honey every year for letting us keep the bees there.
But it helps them too.
But it helps them too. Yeah, whether it's a field crop or their flowers around their home, or their gardens, so they're getting pollination as well. But the bees, it gives the bees different sources to work on, which is predominantly the same thing, no matter what bee yard. But we do see some differences. Right now, the cotton has started blooming, and I think the soybeans have started in some fields. Farmers, I know it's kind of getting off on a limb here, but I don't think the farmers got all the beans planted this year due to so much rain and the fields being so wet. But what they did get planted has started blooming, and I think that's what the bees are going after right now. But we see them pulling comb, and it's a light comb. It's a white-looking comb. However, in one bee yard we went to, back in the Temperance Hill area in Marion County, we saw yellow comb. So something totally different. We don't know what, but something out of the woods they're finding. If it's out there, the bees will find it.
And no matter what it is, it just, I guess when people think of honey, they're thinking of course, consuming it as a food. The different colors of honey change the flavor?
It does. Every plant has its own unique floral aroma as well as taste. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. One thing you've always taught me about honey is the health benefits of honey, and especially eating honey that is local to your area. Talk a little bit about how that works.
Well, eating local grown honey is good for you, and the reason being the bees are foraging on the plants in our area. So they're bringing in that same pollen that we breathe in on a daily basis, and by consuming that, ingesting it a little each day, we build our immune system up.
Very good. And immune systems are very popular.
Very important right now.
Right now, with everything going on, and people are all concerned about who they're running into and how close they should be. That's just one more tool, I guess, that you can do to keep your health as optimum as you can. If you have different honeys from different locales, but all local, when it comes time to do harvest, it all gets blended. Is that true?
That's right. That's right. It's hard to segregate it, and that's exactly what we do. We pull everything, and we're running it through one after another. And I there may be some pictures to show of the uncapping as we're uncapping honey, but we do run it all through. It's running through the uncapper, the extractors, into the sump tanks, into the bottling tanks, and even the food grade 55-gallon barrels, food grade barrels that we store it in. Mm-hmm. And so it's all blending together.
And different times of year, I guess, have different types of honey that end up being the end product. Do you have customers that really prefer one time and not the other, or I've eaten your honey year round for years now, and I don't really notice too much change, time to time. Am I just missing something, or is there something?
It's
there?
minute changes. But some people can tell. I can taste it. I can taste the difference. But you do have your honey connoisseurs out there, and they know the spring honey and the summer honey, and right on into the fall honey. And basically, it kind of darkens. Even though you can have some dark honey in the spring, and especially like off the poplar. The poplar is a darker honey. Mm-hmm. The privet makes a darker honey, privet hedge. And usually it's your earliest blooms that make the lightest honey. And sometimes we try to pull some of that early honey first, just to have some light honey, especially when we're doing our cut comb, chunks of comb honey in the jars.
Okay.
So that's another thing we do, and that's a little specialty item we have, and it goes really fast. We can't seem to make enough of the comb honey, and some people would rather have the honey just extracted. And on that note, I've had people ask me, is there any difference with the comb honey and the extracted honey? No, there's not, really not. It's the same honey, it's just one's been spun out of the comb, mm-hmm. and the other has been left in the comb. And what we do when we cut that comb in the frame, we put chunks in jars, in pint jars, and we go back with the bottling tank, and we're just filling each jar just like we normally would, but all we're doing is topping off the remaining part of the jar that the comb's in. We're just topping it off that, but it's the same exact honey.
Yeah, I have noticed that variation in color.
Yeah.
From one to the other, but maybe I just like honey. It's always tasted consistently.
And sometimes
good.
the honey gets a little stronger as it goes into the fall of the year, from mm-hmm. the late summer to early fall of the year. Tends to be a little stronger tasting.
Is there a time, I guess, during the winter that you're just totally down as far as honey?
There's been some years that we were running out just before the new crop came in, and but most years we're able to overlap.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's good.
And so we were able to keep selling it right on until the new crop comes in.
That's really neat. Now, in terms of the increase you do you have targets you try to meet each year? I'm thinking of from the business perspective of a growth target. I want this many new hives and this many new hives here.
We do. As I set those goals, this year we've set the goal for 550. But to get that 550 queen right hives going into the winter, we're probably going to need about 650 to 700 hives. Because we'll easily lose 100, 150 hives probably. I just know the numbers from past years. Mm-hmm. Just even now, as we go to the bee yards, we think the last time we went through, we got a few dead outs up, a couple of dead outs in each yard. Sometimes there's a little more in one yard than another. We don't know why. I hear reports. I talk to beekeepers from around the state as well as around the country. And, I'm hearing the same reports from them, and they're asking me why, and I'm asking them why, Right. But dead outs are just a part of the business. The queens fail for one reason or another. We go there, we see the queen, she looks good, she's laying good. We come back there 2 or 3 weeks later after we've gone through the different yards. We may work 15 different yards mm-hmm. or so, and then get back around, and we just start in the loop again. And we have 2 or 3, 4 more dead outs, and what happened? They were doing good when we left here. What happened? And so just not sure on that.
When that happens, do the bees that were a part of that hive just move somewhere else, or do you lose the whole hive of bees, or how's that work?
If we catch them in time and we see we got a queen problem, we could go ahead and give them a frame of brood and eggs and larvae from a stronger hive. We're just taking, kind of borrowing from Peter to pay Paul here, and give them a queen cell, let her hatch, and then if she mates successfully and goes back in and starts laying, then she'll keep that hive going. And we try to do that, but sometimes it's just not always possible to catch them in time. And if they've gone too weak, then we'll usually break them down and take the few bees that are left and just combine it with a stronger hive. And so one of the problems we have, and this has been going on for decades, wax moths and small hive beetles, and they'll destroy a hive. So, but they know something's already going on. If you have that trouble, something's already going on with the queen.
You talked before about different kinds of parasites you have to work with, and how you
varroa mites. That's right.
Try to keep them all in check.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting field of agriculture that you're in, because people can kind of picture corn growing and beans growing and things like that, but I don't think they understand all the intricacies of honey. Plus, just the honeybee is an awesome animal too, all because of all the different things they do, and how I don't know how you measure intelligence, but I'm always amazed that the bees all have different jobs. They all do that.
They are social insects.
All interact so well.
That's right.
That's just always amazed me. Getting on the weather subject, it's been a very busy tropical year so far, and expectations is it's going to continue. What do you do if we get word that a tropical storm or hurricane's coming? Because you have a lot of investment out there. Is there a way to protect your hives? There's
not really. I mean, they're at the mercy of the weather. If we were to have a hurricane or a tornado, I'm at the mercy of whatever happens. So
how do you regroup? Like after a hurricane, Matthew or Florence, did you have a lot of loss?
No, I didn't. I've been really blessed, very fortunate through the past storms. They've all weathered well. None of mine got flooded out. I've heard of some beekeepers in other counties that got flooded out. Some of them just got washed down a quarter mile to half mile away from what I was hearing some of the guys talking about. But we've been very fortunate on that. We haven't had those kind of losses. Our bees have weathered the storms well.
Very good. And how about the persistent heat we've had? Is that a problem or not a problem? It's pretty normal, I guess.
Yeah, the bees, they'll deal with it if it gets really hot. Sometimes I haven't really seen this year. Last year I did see it in the extreme heat of the summer, where the bees were actually cannibalizing the larvae and eggs because they just couldn't control the incubation temperature. Just the temperature spiking so high.
Wow.
So that's something that we have to deal with, and if it does, and we're trying to make increase, it's going to set us back a little bit on making our increase. So right now we're getting the brood we need to make the increase, and we take 2 frames of brood, a frame of honey with bees, and start a nucleus hive, which is a 5-frame box of bees, and give them a queen cell, and that's how we get our new hives going.
Very neat. Well, I want to pick your brain a little bit about agriculture in general, but let's take a short break. We'll come back and do that, okay?
Great.
All right. We'll be right back after this. If you are in the market for a car, truck, or SUV, you have to check out Parker's Used Cars. Parker's Used Cars is on Highway 38 South in Blenheim, located between Latta and Bennettsville. Tommy Parker, the owner, has built his reputation by selling high-quality vehicles for 29 years. You won't believe the selection. You'll have over 600 cars, trucks, and SUVs to pick from. Check them out online at parkersautos.com. That's parkersautos.com. Or call them at 843-528-3301. Parker's Used Cars in Blenheim, Highway 38. And welcome back to Weather Awareness, talking with Jim Allen, beekeeper for Uncle Jim's Southern Honey. And Jim, a lot of your bees, I guess, are out in the agricultural environment across PD, including Dillon and Marion counties, where we're concerned about. And it talks to a lot of farmers. You go through their fields a lot. How are things looking as far as the interaction with all the extreme wetness we've had and also the pretty persistent heat? What are you seeing and hearing from the area farmers?
Well, so far, just talking to some of the farmers, I noticed they didn't. They're telling me that they didn't get all their acreage planted with soybeans. So that is something our bees work during midsummer.
I remember driving around a lot during the spring, and so many fields just underwater or partially underwater. You can tell the farmer hasn't had a chance to be able to get out there. I guess that's what you're talking about, right?
That's right. The fields have been wet. They just weren't able to get out there when they needed to plant. And from
And
I'm
at
not
a certain
crop.
point, there's a deadline, I would imagine.
That's right. Not being a crop farmer, but just talking to them, what some of the farmers told me is they try to have the beans in the ground by the end of June at the latest, and they said by the first week of July at the very latest. So they definitely have a timeline in getting their crop in the ground to be able to make that crop. So
Yeah.
I think they got cut short a little bit this year. I think maybe some got everything they wanted in the ground, and some may not have gotten everything in. So
I've always been told that if there's one crop that loves water, it's corn. But even that, I can see some like bare spots out in the field where you can tell it just got too wet for even the corn crop.
well, yeah, I've always heard corn likes water, and it looks like there's a good corn crop to me just from what I'm seeing.
That's great.
Going to the bee yards. But the farmer, he'll be the expert on that.
That's right. One thing I've noticed about farmers is they always are optimistic.
Yeah.
Even in a bad year, they're always saying, it's going to be getting better. It's going to, we're just going ahead, looking forward. I've talked to some farmers. I say, faith really must be a big part of being a farmer. They said, absolutely. If you didn't have belief in God and faith, you'd be hard pressed to make it in this career.
Absolutely, and the same thing applies with beekeepers. I feel like I know personally as myself, for myself, I put all my faith and trust in the Lord, and because that's where that crop's going to come from with His blessings on it. Something I noticed about the weather, though, with all the rain, is it seems like a lot of the fruit crops are doing good this year. And one of the things I noticed, I've got a few small trees and bushes planted, different things, but my grapevines are loaded.
Really?
My pear trees made, my blueberry bushes did pretty well this year. The Japanese persimmon trees, they're loaded, and the fig trees, they're loaded.
That's
and the pecan trees are loaded. I see the pecan trees are really heavy this year.
That's all good news.
Yeah.
Whenever I think of pecan trees, my mind goes to hurricanes. Hopefully we can weave our way through the hurricane season without too many impacts, but we certainly have a threatening season ahead of us in terms of that. So let's go back to keeping the faith and pray we all get through that okay too.
That's right.
Very good. Jim Allen with Uncle Jim's Southern Honey. Before we go, Jim, I want to give you a chance to talk about where you can get your honey. I see it more and more places all the time, but any guidance you can give folks to say, I want to try that?
No matter what town you're in, I'm not sure how many towns this covers, but with TV Hometown 8 here, but if you just want to give me a call on the business phone, 843-752-0444, and I'll direct you to a store near you.
Sounds good. Thank you very much. Jim Allen with Uncle Jim's Southern Honey. We'll be right back after this. If you are in the market for a car, truck, or SUV, you have to check out Parker's Used Cars. Parker's Used Cars is on Highway 38 South in Blenheim, located between Latta and Bennettsville. Tommy Parker, the owner, has built his reputation by selling high-quality vehicles for 29 years. You won't believe the selection. You'll have over 600 cars, trucks, and SUVs to pick from. Check them out online at parkersautos.com. That's parkersautos.com. Or call them at 843-528-3301. Parker's Used Cars in Blenheim, Highway 38. Hello and welcome back to Weather Awareness, a quick hurricane season update before we leave you. Obviously, it's already been a very busy season across the entire Atlantic Basin. We thought that would be the case. and now it certainly is turning out to be exactly that. From here on out, we expect it to stay very busy. So we have to keep our guard up, even though we've already had so many named storms. There's many more yet to come. Obviously, that means with each storm, we have to track and watch and make sure it does not come our way. And of course, when one does come our way, we have to really kick that awareness and expectation into high gear and make sure we have our hurricane plans ready. So all I can say for the rest of this busy season, make sure you do have your hurricane plan in place, what you would do if and when a storm comes our way, and then be ready to put that into full gear when that eventuality happens. Thank you again for watching Weather Awareness. Stay safe this hurricane season, and we'll see you again next time.